Audacious Dutchman.
Hello and welcome to episode 7 of The Audacious Dutchman. We did it! We made it past episode 6. How good's that?
Nice.
Is that
Pretty
a milestone?
Good. Yeah, why not?
Could be.
Call it a milestone.
In this one, we're actually joined by Papa, Jason Pater, my dad, who is down from Queensland. Yeah?
Indeed.
How's
Yep.
your flight?
Yeah, it was good. My arms are very sore.
Yeah. What a good, shitty 80s interview question. I feel like that's a very, Tonight Show sort of, how was the flight in?
Can we take this?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll only need to put those on if we put a video on or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I saw your spiffy wheels out the front as well.
Oh, yeah.
How good's that?
The Corolla.
Is that good?
I keep, every single time I hire a car, I ask for a Hyundai Kona. Now, they're not that
Why?
great a car, but I'm just fascinated with these Konas. I want to drive one. I don't know why. I just would like to. I don't even think they're that good. So every single time I hire a car, I select Hyundai Kona. And it says under the small writing, or similar. And I tell you what, every single time I've got or similar.
Or similar. Bugger.
Today it's an old Toyota Corolla. Well,
Is it a hybrid?
I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I put the key in and drove.
Did it make
the
a noise
fact that
immediately?
It's got a key would suggest to me that it's still pretty old.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's brand new.
Is it?
Yeah, it's the current generation.
Right.
And I know they do those as a hybrid. And I saw it and I specifically didn't look at the boot lid because I wanted to find out if it was a hybrid. And I wanted the surprise. I wanted a genuine reaction for the podcast.
It's got adaptive cruise control.
you didn't know.
So that was good.
Fair enough.
We can go and have a look. if you like.
No.
We'll just pause the podcast.
You
and go check it
you
out.
would know if it was a hybrid because you turn it on and you go, oh,
Yeah,
that's
no,
weird.
No, it's
yeah.
No,
yeah,
it's
you'd
definitely
know. Yeah. So what are you doing? What are you doing down here?
Come down to. Actually, tomorrow we're presenting to a room full of people. We're actually pitching a project on behalf of a charity, or we're pitching with the charity.
Yep.
To a room full of funders. Well, hopefully it'll be a room full of funders. Pitching.
Is it usually a room full of funders?
No.
Okay. Two guys. They're like, we just want to fucking go play golf.
Two blokes and a dog. That's it. No, this charity wants to buy a property for crisis housing, and so we're helping them to do that. And so tomorrow is the big first pitch.
Cool.
See how we go.
What's crisis housing?
So in this case, for these guys, you've got a whole lot of people sleeping on the beach called rough sleepers. In fact, on the Mornington Peninsula, the Mornington Council has deemed 146 people as permanent residents on the Ryback Beach. So they're literally, that's
Wow.
their address.
I didn't know that.
They're considered permanent residents. They don't sleep anywhere else.
Yeah.
They sleep on the beach, which is horrible and tragic.
Yeah.
And that's terrible. And so what Mornington Community Support and Southern Peninsula Community Support, great community organisations that have been doing some amazing work down here on the peninsula for a long time, they recently were gifted or allowed to use a local motel. So a developer purchased a site, it's a motel site, and whilst he's getting a permit, he said to them, why don't you use this for crisis accommodation? So they've been taking people off the streets, rough sleepers, off the beaches, and putting them into accommodation. And then over the 2 years that they've had it, they've had 130 people through, and they've had over 60% of those have then gone on to secure long-term accommodation and get their lives started to straighten out, and they become a bit more independent.
When you say long-term accommodation, is that traditional, sort of they got a rental?
They get a house, yeah.
Or is
They
it
can rent
special? Is it through a government program? Or
it could be. It could be
Okay.
any of those things. Yeah.
Yep.
Terrific. So crisis means they're in crisis. They've got no other choice. They're
Sure.
sleeping on the streets, or maybe it's a single mum sleeping in a car, and they put them in the motel. It's a nice, safe place for them to sleep for a period of time until they can get into proper accommodation in the long term. Of course, now the developer's got his permit. Wants his motel back. They need a new one. So the only way is either buy one or build one. That's a $5 or $6 million project.
with
and
no benefit
No.
for your $5-6 million.
No, that's
Yeah.
right, because we're not running it as a business.
Yeah.
It'll be run as a charity, and these guys don't. They can pay a little bit of rent, but not a lot of rent. So, so hopefully we find some good philanthropic people who are really interested in supporting crisis housing.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It is. It's a tough gig, housing, I tell you what.
Mm.
It's see, there's a spectrum of housing from crisis to transitional to long term, and there's also a spectrum if you think like a mathematician, right? It's a graph, and the charts go in opposite directions, and so you've got needs as well of the people in those types of accommodation. There are some people who have good jobs, have jobs. They can pay rent, but they can't pay a lot of rent, and they may not have a bond saved up, so therefore they can't get into accommodation. But they're not really helpless or homelessness, or they ultimately do become homeless. But they can afford what's considered affordable housing, and they can move into that, and they can pay a decent amount of rent. So if somebody wants to fund that, they will get a return because of the rental. And the other end of the spectrum is people sleeping on the beach. They've usually got some sort of mental health condition which has caused them to end up sleeping on the beach in the first place. And so they are relying on Centrelink, or you've got single mums relying on Centrelink, and that is not a lot of rent. So they can't afford to pay a whole lot. So those people often need a lot of support as well. So they've got low rent, and it's very expensive to help them. Whereas the other people who can afford to pay a bit more rent don't need any help at all. So at that end of the market, it's much easier to provide housing, and that's where a lot of the money for the big housing build's going.
That's interesting.
Serving that. But not a lot of money going over here into crisis.
Yeah, okay.
I'm making hand gestures with my hand, which is not particularly helpful to the
Doesn't
listeners.
Doesn't matter.
But
Yeah.
that's like the old air quotes.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, so the
How are you making it
It's-
appealing?
Oh, it's fantastic. We're after interest-free loans. We're asking people to give us money, no interest, no repayments for 10 years.
Yeah, right.
It's fantastic. That's going to sell like hotcakes.
Yeah, okay. So that's the pitch.
That is the pitch.
Yeah, okay. So it's a challenging one.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
However, there is a target cohort of private ancillary funds. This is people who have set up charities in their own right, or foundations in their own right, that have money set aside to do good with. And if they lend money to us interest-free, that will count towards their minimum requirement that they have to give away every year. And then they will get their money back. So in their mind, that's actually ticking the boxes for them. So it's actually not that, like you and I might think that's a terrible deal. In their mind, it's a good deal.
Yeah, that's cool.
But the housing crisis that we've all heard about
Yeah.
is one of those things where the term itself is not particularly helpful, because you say housing crisis to anybody who's not had anything to do with this housing that I just explained. The first thing they're going to think of is, okay, crisis. So that means there's a problem, and then any entrepreneur or business person is going to say, well, I'm a solutions guy, so I'm going to help you come up with a solution for that. So they go crisis, solution, great, and then it's suddenly in solution mode. And the other part of that is housing, right? So if there's housing that needs solution, okay, there's obviously not enough housing, so I'll build more houses, and that's their answer. The problem is, homelessness is not a lack of housing. Homelessness is a mental health problem, or is caused by family breakdown. So it's one of those things. It's actually a social problem, and it isn't a lack of housing. And so, if people never became homeless in the first place, there would be plenty of houses. The fact that their life family breaks down, or they're not mentally capable of functioning in their lives anymore, they lose their deposits, they lose their cars, they lose their houses or whatever, and then they get into a situation where the only option is for someone to give them something. So then housing has to be fully funded by somebody else in order to give it to these people.
Yeah, right.
And so ultimately the housing crisis is led by a mental health problem. And so you give a mentally unstable person a house, they're not going to be able to function in that. You've still got to support them through that. So housing is a service. It isn't. It just happens to be in bricks and mortar.
Yeah.
So the solution to the housing crisis is a service, not housing. The service will come through housing, but we need to understand that
It's very interesting.
that's the difference.
Yeah, okay.
And so we can't just build more houses.
Yeah.
We have to provide support with those houses. It's a very different role.
Is there
And that's the
anything?
challenge.
Is there anything being done to fix the mental health crisis? Are there any activities or programs, or is there any attempt? Is it something that you've observed, or is it something that it's known,
I
and
know
at a
this.
government level it's known that there's a mental health crisis? And you know what I'm asking though, yeah? Is it a
sure.
serious?
It's certainly an acknowledged.
Sure.
It's not Jason's theory
Yep.
that it's a mental health problem. It's certainly an acknowledged
Understood.
cause. Are they doing anything about it? I'm not qualified to answer that question. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yep.
There's certainly, you could name.
Have
lots
you
of-
seen any evidence?
Today's
of it?
Are You OK Day? Did you know that?
No.
Are you okay?
I'm all right.
Yeah, okay.
I'll be
That's
better at the end of this beer.
So there are programs like that where it's encouraged to talk about mental health problems and stuff like that. That's sort of right at the front end, trying to prevent things, which is good. If there's anybody doing anything about it at the other end, I guess to the extent where it becomes a medical condition, the NDIS is geared up to help with that. But again, it's a complex problem.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Phew.
That was a lot, wasn't it?
Yeah, I like it. That's
Boom.
great.
That was
yeah,
heavy.
yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, that's very interesting. On a very different note, you're gearing up to go to Africa.
Yes. Going back to Uganda.
So you've been to Uganda already
was in-
once before.
I was in Uganda this time last year.
Yes. Yeah.
Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda last year.
Yeah. Why are we there?
So we support a number of charities over there, and from time to time, we need to go over and make sure that the funds we're sending are being used effectively and appropriately. That there's no corruption involved, which is common in developing countries, and so we need to make sure that that our donors' funds are being well used.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So you get money from donors, which we'll come back to in a second. And then you go over there and actually meet the people that you're speaking with over email, supposedly building wells, so you can evidence the wells.
Yeah.
So you go, hey, look, I actually saw the well.
Yeah.
They were digging the hole, the bricks were there. I'm pretty sure that if you give us a bit more money, there will be water coming out of that ground very soon.
And it went well. Interestingly, we don't do wells. There's nothing wrong with wells. There's nothing wrong with people providing water. That's terrific. We generally don't do that. We
Not in the well game.
typically it's not a well game. We do housing, health, housing, and education. So predominantly
Are they going well?
they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they are going really well.
They're going well.
They are going well. So
Health, housing, and education.
yes. So and often they go together.
Yeah.
So the organisation that we're going to go visit in Uganda is called Tukwaro,
Yeah.
which in the local language just means the tree, or a specific kind of tree, like the gum tree.
Okay.
And it was all about how they originally used to meet under the Kwaro tree and do lessons until they got a building, and that was actually really good.
It was good?
Dairy free,
Oh, give it a go.
I rate it. It was pretty good. Get on it. And so this organisation, Tukwaro, now has 3 schools, and they're educating young girls who, in Uganda, generally don't rate an education. Ugandans don't culturally think it's important to educate girls, and in particular girls who have found themselves pregnant through one form or another. In Ugandan's case,
I'm no reproductive endocrinologist. Pretty sure that only one way it happens.
No.
I understand what you're saying,
the point I was trying to make is that there's a lot of girls were abducted during the war and were made child brides and came back with children.
Which war?
There was a war. This was a war with Joseph Kony.
Oh,
Joseph
old
Kony?
mate. Yeah.
Joseph Kony. You remember
From
that?
the videos with the guy. I was
When you
actually
were
just
going
thinking
through
about.
school.
I was just thinking about that the other day, and it turned out he was a sex pest or something.
Oh yeah, they all are.
Which you're not allowed to say anymore. You have to say minor attracted person.
Is that right?
Have you heard this?
No.
I've got a video to show you later now.
Right.
It's craziness. Anyway.
Yeah. So
Minor
during
attracted
that
person.
war, during the war with Joseph Kony, he was the guy who was raiding villages and abducting children, girls at 13 years old, and then taking them to be child brides of his soldiers. And they would also abduct the boys and then put guns in their hands and
That's
make
terrible.
them go to. It's horrible, horrendous. And at some stage they escaped or were released and came back. So 4, 5, 6 years later, they came back to their villages, and their families and their communities disowned them because they were carrying the babies of these soldiers, right, who were ultimately
bad
effectively
blood.
their enemies.
Yep.
And
Bad blood.
And of course
Very
they-
interesting.
yeah,
So they're looked upon as scum.
yeah, pretty much.
Wow,
It's
that's
been culturally
tragic.
difficult. And of course,
They're like the lepers in big biblical times.
and they didn't have an education because they were stolen at 13, so they missed out on school. So this organisation will educate these girls with their babies, so they can have their babies at school. They'll either take them with them to class, or there's a little daycare centre where the kids can go, and
Wow.
and it's residential, so they stay on site.
Yep.
So it's pretty cool. Doing a great job.
Wow.
We've just done a little fundraiser for them. If you're interested, go to payton.com.au/foundation. Have a look for the fundraiser for Tukwaro. We're up to about $7,000. Our target's 13.5. So That would be good. And what we're fundraising for is beds.
That's
So-
Payton,
That's it.
not Pater.
No.
Which, if you're not really paying attention,
Not the Family Foundation.
yeah, no, it's a different family.
Yes.
Yeah, sounds really similar. Anyway, did you say Taquaro?
Yeah, Taquaro.
Yep.
TE-KWORO. So they normally educate 300 girls in this school, and this year 600 girls turned up. So there's 300 girls that they just couldn't accommodate. They couldn't turn them away though, so they're sharing. No, they can't share beds. They're literally sleeping on the floor, and so we're fundraising to buy beds. As we were walking here, I was just reading emails to say we told them we were a third of the way through. This is when we were at $5,000 on our target. So we've got $5,000. Go buy some beds because $5,000's coming. And in the midst of the emails being backwards and forwards and the time change, the 5 became 7. So we emailed them back and said, "Go get $2,000
Winner.
more
Yep.
beds." So it's $115. Can't do that maths that quick, but somebody will do it real quick.
115
30 or 40
times.
beds.
Well, it's 7,000 divided by 115.
Yep.
115. 60.86 beds.
There you go. So there's 60 girls who, at bunks. So that's 120 girls who will now sleep on a bed instead of on the floor. Which is,
That's fantastic.
oh, isn't it though? I mean, it's so insignificant to us and so significant to them. It's amazing how far a dollar goes over there.
Certainly is interesting, isn't
I
it?
haven't stopped talking yet.
That's fine. Makes you a great interview. Anyway, I had a good question. So, obviously, well, not obviously, but I know you, so I know that you have had an interesting life shift over the last decade, in the sense that you were an accountant, ran an accounting practice, lived in the peninsula, and you were just someone's dad running an accounting practice.
Someone's dad.
Someone's dad. You know what I mean? You were just a dude, and now you're in Uganda.
Yeah.
This is the first time you went. I know it was Mongolia. Yeah.
No, the first time I went was 5 or 6 years ago to Malawi,
Okay.
which is a tiny little country in Africa, a little bit just above South Africa.
Yep.
Not a lot of people have heard of it. One of the poorest countries there. And we went and visited an orphanage we were supporting back then.
So my question was, so you're running a practice on the peninsula. Yeah. You go to work, drive a BMW to work every day in a suit, and you're dealing with high-profile clients. You did part-time CFO work, yeah.
Yep.
So you're dealing with that world, and then you get on a plane and go to a war-torn third world country. What was that culture shock like? The first time you went in and did a very, very different job.
So I mentally prepared myself for that. Like I read books and I looked at things and I tried to look at it with an open mind and go, okay, I'm going to expect to see poverty, because all you see about Africa is poverty and it's dry and it's hot. And so I expected all that. I prepared myself for that. And I went with a couple of mates and they briefed me on what to expect. And so I was all prepared for that. And the one thing that got me, the thing that was the biggest culture shock of all, was the fact that as you drive down the roads and you're doing 80 k's an hour on these bumpy roads with potholes and stuff, there's people walking on both sides of the road right next to the car, this far away from the car. And they do sometimes get hit. We didn't hit any while we were there, but you just think to yourself,
Good brag.
these people,
We didn't kill anyone.
there's people walking so close to the car, and I can't comprehend that. You know, here you've got a footpath, and then you've got 6 feet of gap between the footpath and the car, and no, not so there. They just all walk, and this was so weird.
Yeah.
That was the thing that for me was the biggest culture shock, because I was
Yeah, okay.
prepared for all the rest of it, but that was nuts.
Did you see anything tragic? Like, did you see a kid that was malnourished? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So there was a kid. We were at the market, and I was buying food. We were going to visit some single mums in their homes, and we were bringing food with us. And while we were at the market buying food, I saw 2 different kids in the very same space. And one was a shopkeeper's son, and he was well fed. He was a little tiny kid, but he was well fed. He was walking around, and he was cute, and that was and clearly, because the shopkeeper was doing well, they had access to food, so the kid got fed.
Yeah, okay.
Then not so far away, there was another kid sitting on a step, looking really malnourished and a little bit intellectually disabled
Okay.
as
Yep.
well. And
Is that common?
Yeah, probably not.
More common or less common
Yeah,
than
and
where we
it
are
would have
now?
been. It would not have been just a birth defect. It would have been through some sort of trauma.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, maybe a bad birth, or dad bashed him up, or any of that sort of
Is
stuff.
that common over there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Jeez.
Yeah, so pretty rugged. So, but he looked
Why?
That was really sad. He was just sitting on the doorstep, life's going by, and that'll be his life forever. You know, there's nothing for him. That was really sad.
Do you know any stories of kids? You just said bashed by dad. Yeah, and that really hit me. I'm trying to get in the head of the dude bashing his 18-month-old kid. Is that a fair assessment? 18-month-old. Do you know why they do it?
Frustration.
So it's a punching bag. Or did the kid mess up? Did they not want the kid?
Yeah.
Do you know?
No, I don't. But
You
I could
suspect.
I could suspect. You know, poverty creates pressures, and dads over there are not good at managing their budgets. They don't understand.
Gee, so they look at their kid like a succubus.
Well, maybe. Typically, what happens is you get single mums over there, right? And they've got HIV, and they're out raising their children who have also probably got HIV. Well, how did they get HIV? The husbands brought HIV home. How did the husbands get HIV? So they're out playing around, right?
Yeah, wow.
And the husbands, when the wives get diagnosed with HIV, the husbands kick the wives out because they've got HIV. But the husband gave it to them in the first place.
Wow.
So they kick them out, and then the children have to go with the mother. So the husband,
And then you buy them beds.
and then that's it. And they do this multiple times. So the dad could end up with multiple ex-wives.
it's a systemic
all over the
issue.
place. Yep. Because they don't take responsibility. Now, why is that? And there's probably a whole bunch of reasons, but I'll give you an example. In Uganda, during the late 80s or late 70s, early 80s, Idi Amin took over in Uganda, and that became quite a violent time in Uganda's history. And the government soldiers ultimately killed all the adults, a majority of the adult population, males in particular. But when I was there in the late... anyway, when I was there 10 years ago, I was told the statistic was that the population demographic of Uganda was 70% was under the age of 30. Just think that through for a minute. So the whole older generation had been killed off, and these kids had raised themselves. And now the majority of the country was young. So there's no elders, no leadership, no history being passed on, no parenting. And so now the ones that were all made orphaned at the time and were lucky enough to be rescued and put in orphanages have done okay because they've been raised well by the orphanages. Those that didn't but still managed to survive are now starting to have their own kids and have no parenting model. So they don't know how to parent. They've got no experience. So they're either doing it really poorly or they just don't want their children and they abandon them. They throw them away, or they abandon them. They leave them on the doorstep of the orphanage. They're the good ones. The good ones are left in a box on the orphanage. The bad ones are ones that, I'll tell this story. You can edit this out later on if you like, but
No. Don't edit it out. Before you tell the story, though, he drove a grocer. He had a Pullman.
Idi Amin.
Yeah, 600 Pullman.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's the dictator's car, isn't it?
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. There's a lot of dictators, and Jeremy Clarkson, who
Own a,
own a Pullman. Anyway,
is that called a Pullman? Is it?
it's a
There's a whole
Mercedes 600 Pullman.
Yeah.
And grocer.
Grocer. There's
And
a whole range
if-
of hotels now.
and
called
they sold-
the Pullman.
They sold.
Are they trying to
I
reference
don't know.
this?
I don't know.
Are they
And
basically saying if you stay in this Pullman, you're a dictator?
I don't think so. I think it's. I don't know. I don't know. Most of those were sold in green, and they called them the green grocers, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, right.
He drove a
Did
Pullman.
you know that Mercedes were made in Melbourne? There were not all Mercedes.
Yeah,
There was
remember
a
that.
factory in Port Melbourne that assembled Mercedes in the 60s.
Do you remember that one we were looking at buying?
Yes, I do.
What was that?
It was an S. It was a 280S. We should have bought it. Didn't buy it. We should have bought it. That was made in Port Melbourne? I'm sure it was Port Melbourne.
I'm going to Jen Saki this, and we're going to circle back to cars. We're going to circle back
That's
to
hilarious. You want to hear this
a
story?
classic car. I want to, and we'll do it a bit later. I want to hear about the story about the.
So one of the other organisations that we support is Watoto. Watoto, which actually in Swahili means children, is a children's
Didn't know
home,
that.
strangely enough. And they have a facility generously sponsored by a corporate entity or a company in America. They built this entire facility for babies. So because there were so many babies being rescued or dropped off at Watoto, they built this facility. Anyway, they were telling the story of one of the children that had been brought there, was brought there by a man who was going to a latrine, a drop bog.
Yep.
I think that's pretty
Yeah.
self-explanatory, a
Yeah.
drop bog.
Yeah.
And he heard crying.
A shit house.
He heard crying come from
No.
below.
No.
And he went, this is not right. And so they got heavy machinery out, they cracked open this latrine and fetched the child out and took it to Watoto.
Fuck off.
True story. True story. The good news is
I
the
nearly
child
said, holy
survived.
shit.
The child's...
I thought it was in poor taste, so I didn't. Well, I did.
But then you
but,
said it anyway.
well, I saw the irony despite the tragic story.
Yeah.
Holy
No.
crap.
So the good news... You said it.
That was not intentional. Fuck me.
I think holy crap.
I won't be. Took him to Watoto.
The child
Yeah,
survived.
right.
He survived. In fact, when I was there...
How is he?
Pretty...
Like, is he alright?
Yeah. No, he's
Is he
okay.
old now or what? Is he young?
When I was there, I want to say 3 years ago, it was maybe 4 years ago. I think
Wow.
he was 2 years old then, and he would have been a brand new infant when they found him.
I've never heard this story.
There you
This
go.
is crazy.
That is crazy, isn't it?
That
But thank God that they have organisations like Watoto that they can restore these children, that they can raise them. So Watoto have a terrific model. They would get people from Australia to fundraise 20 grand, and then they'd send a team of people with their 20 grand over to Uganda and build a hut. And that hut would have 3 bedrooms. It would have one bedroom for 4 boys on bunks, another one for 4 girls on bunks, and another one for the house mum. And effectively that became a family unit. So they would put these 8 orphan kids together with a mum, and that was their family. And those kids then stayed there until they were ready to leave, 18 or whatever, and become independent. And then they would go to school in the village there in the site, and they'd raise them up.
wow.
Terrific model. Gold standard in orphan care. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go.
Phew, I'm still thinking about the kid in
it's
the shit
full on.
house. That's terrible.
Oh, that is terrible. The stories of the girls that were abducted is much worse.
I am somewhat desensitized to that level of story. Does that make sense?
Sure.
It's no better or worse, but it is familiar. Yeah?
Finding
heard
a
that.
baby in a drop bog. is-
Like, that's Jeffrey Epstein stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. I'm aware that happens. But it's like a bad joke. There's surprise.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a good joke, but it's a terrible... Like, there's surprise, and that's what gets you with the joke, is the surprise. That's what impacts you emotionally. Yeah, that's... Whew, that's a lot. Yeah, that's really a
We should
lot.
take a break. We should hear from our sponsors. You know, I hear Smart Yard's doing an amazing job. There's writing on that.
Yeah.
If you want a smart yard, the smart thing to do would be to contact Smart Yards, and they will come along and they will take your yard and make it smart.
Yeah. Looking at hiring someone as well. So if you know anyone that wants a job and knows how to push a lawnmower, let me know.
Speaking of which, do you remember the first time you... So I taught you how to... Because
Cut the grass.
Dads do. Cut the grass. So that was my opportunity to sit back with a beer and enjoy watching you cut the grass.
What did my wife say?
Oh,
Don't move. I said to you,
oh yeah.
tell your favourite apple doesn't fall far from the tree story. And she said, you two sit the same. Not only do we sit the same, have a look at the hands.
Identical. Bit scary.
That's the same
We're both
hand.
actually sitting forward.
It's the same hand.
I can see it. Well,
Cutting the grass.
I was going to actually do this.
Oh no, fucker off! I've never seen you do this though. I do a lot of that. I've never seen you do that. Do you do that?
Yeah, probably.
Mm.
Yeah.
You
Anyway,
told
you
me to
cut
cut
the
the grass.
I think if you let Andrew tell the story, he will say, cut the grass all the time. That's not true. Like 4 times.
I cut the grass absolutely all the time.
4 times.
And I cut the neighbour's grass.
You
I
know
cut
what?
Ted's grass.
Yeah, actually, that's...
Ted with no arm.
No, I
He
rate
found it
that.
hard to cut the grass.
Actually, You cut the grass next door in
The creep.
Warren. No.
Jody.
Jody's place.
And I smashed her window.
And smashed a window, but you also fell off the
Yeah.
split level
Yeah.
backwards.
Yeah.
You were, I don't know why you were going backwards with the lawnmower, but you fell off. You're lucky the lawnmower didn't roll over the top of you.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember you breaking the window.
Yeah.
So you're right, you did mow the lawn. And you got paid by her. You used my mower
I
and
have
my
something to
petrol.
admit to
and
you.
got
I knew I smashed that window.
Yeah.
And I just didn't tell anyone.
Oh.
I was-
How did we find out? Jody must have
She called up and said, you smashed my window.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thankfully, Olpa was a glazier. So we
Yeah,
just...
how did we fix it? Did I fix it?
Yeah, we went over and fixed it together. It's a timber window and we just fixed it.
I'm pretty sure I got cut. Somebody got cut in the glass. There was blood.
Yeah, probably.
Bound to be.
But I watched it happen. I went, fuck. And I was like, "Whoa, how old would I have been there? Like 12, 13?
I know it was about...
Something like that?
Well, no, it was 10 years ago.
No, not true.
It was 09.
We lived in Baxter for 10
10.
years.
10, 11, 12. 10, 11, 12 we were there.
What's
That's only 10 years.
24
10, 12
now.
years ago. So you'd have been 12. No. How old are you now? 25.
25? 26 in October.
Yeah, okay.
15?
12, 13, 14.
Nah, you're not scared of that sort of stuff at 15, but 12.
Yeah, you
But we finished up.
were
No,
arguably not young enough to actually be
Cut the
working
grass.
and charging people from...
whatever.
Anyway. The good old days, hey?
Yeah. No, I knew I smashed her window, watched it happen, and I went, I knew I was going to get found out, but I also had decided I was not going to fess up. I was just going to finish cutting the grass, leave, and it was going to go away.
Yeah. It didn't though, did it? No.
No, she called that night.
Yep.
And then that weekend we went back and fixed the window.
Oh, we went back straight away and boarded it up. You can't leave
Oh,
it open.
okay. Maybe we did.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
remember any of this. No.
Hilarious.
So, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I'm going to tell you my favourite the apple doesn't fall far from the tree story, because we're related, obviously.
Yeah.
I've got one.
Did you,
So,
you want me to go first? Or
I will go first,
Okay.
and you can ruminate on your story, and whilst...
I don't have a great one, but
Yeah, okay. That's fine.
you go.
So, I always used to pick on you and Mum for every holiday, every long weekend, what do we do? Work on the house.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's what you do.
Mhm.
We don't go on a holiday. We just work on the house. We paint, we knock shit down, and you still do it.
Serial
Yeah?
renovators. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. For as long as I can remember.
Yep.
We're always renovating something. There's
Yep.
actually a picture, which I'll flash up here, of me
picture.
painting.
Mhm.
Yeah?
Mhm.
At 4. I was 4. Maybe 3.
I think you might have been 6 or 7. Anyway.
Maybe.
Jack was 5 at the time. So
Yeah, no,
you
because it
must
wasn't
have been
Sash
6.
Close, it was Ferndale, which,
Ferndale.
whatever. Those are still the same ages. It's all the same shit, different toilet. Yeah? Anyway, I was used to pick on you for that. Yeah?
Sure.
Until I came to your house in... So Mum and Dad moved to Queensland. We stayed in Victoria for a bit. That's a long story, but we'll leave it there. We came up to visit.
Mhm.
Yeah? We came up to see the house and visit and see the whole thing. Yeah? We came for 2 weeks. Day 2, I got bored, painted their entire house.
Mhm.
Because I was bored. I was like, nah, done now. Been to Queensland for the first time, mind you.
Yeah, right.
Like, we'd been when we were younger. We stayed in Broadbeach. How long was that holiday? 3-4 days?
Oh, I want to say a week, but could
Yeah.
have been.
But we went to Broadbeach, went to that hotel, stayed in that hotel. Like, Queensland was just Broadbeach.
Yeah,
We didn't do anything else. We went to the...
Went
Theme
to
parks?
Yeah.
But we didn't go to Tambourine, and we didn't go up to Sanctuary... Well, actually, no, we went to Sanctuary Cove, and you test drove that Jag.
Did I?
Yeah, remember?
What Jag?
The Ray Polton Jag.
Oh, his Jag.
His Jag.
Yeah.
Yeah, Uncle Ray's Jag. Dad was thinking about buying it.
So I wanted to buy it.
Man, you know what? You should have done it. It would have been the worst decision of your life, and it would have been
Absolutely.
fantastic.
I sat in this car, and no word of it was convertible.
Yeah.
The windscreen came to his.
XK8.
The windscreen came to
Did I
his.
say E-Type Jag?
Yeah, I think you may have.
Idiot.
I couldn't-
XK8. Pfft.
I literally, I either had to sit above and
Convertible the
Buffeted
roof.
by the wind,
Convertible
and
the roof,
my
and you
eyes would've
put
been like this.
that
or
Clarkson
slide down
face.
here and try and drive like this.
Nah.
No, it's just I sat in it and just knew it wasn't for me, which was unfortunate because it was a magnificent car.
That was wonderful. It was a burgundy Jaguar XK8, 4.2 litre V8, non-supercharged, 1997, with a cream leather interior and a wood grain dash. And it was stupendous.
shit.
Oh, wasn't it just?
Yeah, it was the
Yeah. It was probably overpriced.
She wanted 50 grand for it.
A lot of cheddar,
Yeah,
and that's...
it's probably only worth 35 at the time. She didn't get 50 grand.
She should have said 35. She would have sold it to you. You
Yeah.
would have bought it.
Oh no, I still wouldn't have. 'Cause
Nah, Mum would have hated it.
yes, that's
It's never a reason, though. But...
no. I mean, no.
I
That look was. Mum usually hates all the cars that I buy.
know. That's why I said it's
Yes.
never a reason, though. Queensland.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'd
Painting.
never really seen Queensland. We went there for 2 days.
Oh, I see.
And I got bored and painted your house. And I painted your house the whole time. Painted the entire thing.
Mhm.
All the inside. Painted over that
I'd say
yellow
the
wall.
Entire thing.
Inside.
Yeah, except for the top of the stairwell, which I see every single day I walk down the stairs. There's this trim, and then there's this bit above the trim that's just sort of been slapped.
Guess what? You got hands. You got ladders. You got paintbrushes.
Oh, yeah.
Do you fucking
You know
self. Do you fucking
I'm
self.
selling it, and it's not going to get done. I'm just refusing it, and I don't reckon anybody's going to notice it when they go through it. And at some stage, somebody will live in there 6 months, and I walk down the stairs and I go, "That's not painted."
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! I opened the doors, so I built a wall and I put French doors in this thing in my study, and I just noticed this the other day. When you open the door that normally stays shut all the time, the reveal is not painted.
Oh.
I painted all around this door. There must have been furniture in the way or something at the time I did it, and I
Yep.
couldn't get the door open, so I couldn't get the paintbrush in, and it's still not painted.
There you go.
I'm going to have to paint that one. But that was a little embarrassing. Whoops. So what was your Apple... Oh, the fact that you...
Yeah. I came to your house after taking the
Okay.
piss out of you for 24 years. Dad's got no life, doesn't go to a cafe, doesn't go to a bar, doesn't do anything.
So you pull out a paintbrush.
Yeah, after 2 days, I went, oh, there's nothing to do. I'll just paint their entire house. Because you just moved in, and it had weird stuff. Like yellow wall in our bedroom.
Oh, yeah. That
and
was
I just
rough.
wanted to paint our bedroom. But then I was like,
Once you get
there's-
started, you can't stop, can you?
It's like weeding.
It's addictive.
you just continue for the entire garden.
No, that's...
And I just think it's funny because I'll hang shit on you and then do exactly the same thing.
Yep.
Your apple and tree story, please.
We just spend a lot of money on cars.
Both of us.
Yep.
Yep.
We buy cars that cost a lot of money and then lean into it and just keep spending more money on cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that is
Yep.
the truth. Speaking of cars, let's spare Mum and not tell the Mustang story. Or should we...
She knows it.
Yeah, fuck it, let's go. Alright. So when I was 14...
Sounds about right.
Later. I was year 10, 11.
I blame Wheeler Dealers for this.
Yeah.
Wheeler Dealers fans.
Might have even been overhauling. So we got
No, it's
Foxtel.
definitely Wheeler
We got
Dealers.
Foxtel.
Yep. Mistake
No.
number one.
It was Gas Monkey Garage.
Oh, it could have been.
Might have been a bit of Wheeler Dealers.
Anyway.
We got Foxtel, and Jack and my brother and I would just sit there and watch Wheeler Dealers, Gas Monkey Garage, and Overhauling. They're all car shows, all about fixing up cars. And one day, Dad sat down and said, I wonder if you can make an investment by buying a classic car, fixing up and flipping it.
Oh, because you don't pay tax on profit on a car.
Okay.
Accountant.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yep.
I just heard, Dad wants to buy a classic car. Wonderful. Let's
I mean,
go.
Let's go. What could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong?
So there might actually be money in it for those watching. However, we didn't do the work.
No.
That's the subtext here. So we bought the... Sorry. Dad bought the car. Dad
royal
bought
we.
the car. Yeah. I was very involved in everything apart
Yeah.
from the bill.
Yep.
I did all the research, new lots.
The budget.
Yeah. But I was... It's not like I was just like, oh, you do it. I was very... You would say I was very involved, yeah?
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe even the driver behind it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Just didn't pay the bill.
Correct.
Yeah. And we had a mate who ran a fabrication business, and he did the work for us.
You did.
And so the plan was we were going to buy a Mustang, spend some money fixing it up, and flip it. So the budget was $30,000 restore.
Actually, it was less. It was 20. It was going to be about 22.
Okay.
It's going to be at $6 or $8 to buy the car and 12 grand to.
I think
or
we
the
had
other
a
way around.
$30,000 maximum
Yeah, probably.
from Mum. That was the ceiling with Mum, $30,000. So we buy a Mustang. How much was that shell? No engine.
11.5, maybe.
11.5 grand.
Yeah.
So half the budget that we had planned gone.
Yep.
Yep.
No engine.
No engine.
It was
Yeah.
a pretty car though.
It was Wimbledon white with a burgundy interior.
Yep.
I reckon I can find some photos and put them up on the screen as well. Wimbledon white with a burgundy interior, stunning car, and then very quickly it was like finding a Ralph Lauren knitted jumper. Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah, you find it at an op shop and you go, let's take it home. That's fantastic. I'll just wash it. This little thread here.
All we
little
have to
bits
do
and
is put
pieces.
an engine in it and
Yeah.
it'll be fine.
Correct. So, and basically we pull the thread,
Yep.
and the entire thing just unraveled on the ground. Things like all the trim was Loctited in place.
Which is glue.
Yeah, glue. They glued everything together.
Yep.
The whole engine thing was... It's really hard to find an engine, as it turns out.
Yeah, we ended up getting a V8 out of a
302
ZD Falcon,
302 Windsor,
which is wrong because it should have had a 258,
289.
289, and
289?
289. We couldn't get a 289,
So
so
put a 302 in,
302.
which for those of you playing at home is cubic inches, and that's the difference between a 4.7 litre V8 and a 5 litre V8. We put in a bigger engine, which is better.
which was awesome.
It was
Sounded
outstanding
amazing.
with a custom stainless
Absolutely.
exhaust.
Yep.
That
was
thing
proper.
sounded like the devil, didn't it?
Oh,
It sounded like the
sounded
Grim
really
Reaper
good.
clearing his throat just before he takes you out.
That was, and it had some pickup as well.
Did it?
You'd spin the wheels. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Getting going.
It was really cool.
It's a cracking good.
And I remember I made the executive decision that we needed to put a burgundy stripe over it because
which was
it
good.
had a burgundy interior.
Great call.
And it wasn't standard. And we also not superimposed, but we non-numbers matching. And
No,
this
it
is
wasn't numbers
It was so there's this thing in classic car world called numbers matching, and what that means is everything in the car is original period. And these geeks love everything from the original tires, the original asbestos brake pads, even though they're worse, it's original. To the point at which you can get barn finds where they like still having the dust from the barn on it. And then you got these three hacks from Langwarren with their fucking ZD Fairlane Mustang.
Well, it was never going to be numbers matching,
Yeah.
was it? 'Cause
So we just,
bought it without
put a
the
bit-
engine, so we couldn't.
Hey, we did a good job. In the end, it sounded great, looked great. The paintwork was second to none.
No, the paintwork was
After
appalling.
after we fixed it.
No, the guy that did it in the back in his barn, and he didn't have a proper shed, and so there was dust in it, and we sent it back 3 times, and ultimately it was okay.
Well, I remember it being great. Okay.
Sure, it looked fantastic. But
Maybe
if
I
you
just
really,
live in
if
a
you
fairy
were a
tale.
proper
Yeah, okay.
painter, you wouldn't
Yeah,
have thought that
right.
was good. But anyway, it's
Was that guy with the Bel Air?
yeah, it could have been. I don't know.
Do you remember how
It
we
was
went?
at Cranbourne.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we went to his thing and he had a couple of Chev Bel Airs.
Yeah. Heaps. Of
And we were
cars.
looking, and we were, after we do this one, we'll buy
do
a
a
Bel Air.
That's it.
Could you imagine? Because I know a lot more about those cars now. And all those pieces don't exist anymore.
Yeah, right.
So you have to find a wrecked Bel Air, which they didn't sell them in this country.
No.
So you're not finding a wrecked one here. You got to find a wrecked one in the US, pull the parts off it. Do you remember Marcus Benners?
Yes, I was just about to say that. The first Mustang we bought was on the line from...
Dallas.
Was it
Marcus
Dallas?
Benners
Was it
in
Dallas?
Dallas.
It was
Yep.
definitely from the US. We put a deposit on this
Burned
thing.
in my memory.
And then we paid the deposit, I don't know, left $1,500. Was it $5,000? Anyway, it was enough
1,500.
that it hurt me. And I got sus as soon as I sent the money. I went,
Yeah.
oh, there's something not NQR about this. And so we
Googled it.
we Googled him, found out he was dodgy, and then so we demanded the money back. We actually got the money back, didn't we?
Did you?
I think we
Dunno.
did.
Maybe.
I don't know. I've actually blocked it out. I don't know whether we got it back or not. But I
Interesting.
feel like we did. I feel like we didn't lose.
That would have been a shit
we
show.
did.
Actually, to be honest, it couldn't have been any worse than what we had.
No. Oh, no, he just might not have sent a car at all. We would have sent him the money and got no car.
Okay.
But we would definitely have been better off to have just bought a renovated car from the US and shipped it out. It would have been so much cheaper. Do you remember the total bill of this thing?
65?
No.
Was it more?
Higher.
How much was it?
80.
I'd forgotten.
80.
And what did we sell it for?
28. Lucky I've got a shirt.
So,
So,
there you go.
boys and
Top Gear
girls,
top tip.
yeah, there is no money in cars.
Can you renovate a... No.
No, you cannot.
Speaking of renovating, we were
What do
actually
you do?
having
Sorry, what did you say it's worth now?
more than that.
More than that.
Just my speculation was
Nah,
a lot more than that.
it's
It
not a
could be more
GT
shit.
Falcon. It wasn't even numbers matching. The guy that bought it drove it for weddings. It was
Yep.
a wedding car.
Wonder if it still
But
exists.
Don't know. He probably lit a fire and the thing just kept breaking all the time. That's why we
Yeah.
ultimately got rid of it. Every time I took it out, I had to get it towed back. It was annoying.
Yeah.
It was pretty, but it didn't work.
Yeah. And you've bought yourself a...
What did I buy? Did I get the BMW in?
No. Now.
Oh,
what,
now.
What have you got on order?
Oh, Ford Ranger.
Mm.
Wild track. In Sedona, orange.
I remember when I was
That's a little bit crazy.
7. Remember going to the Melbourne Motor Show
Mm.
and looking at those 3, the Triton, the
Oh, yeah.
Ranger,
Yep.
and the Hilux.
Yep.
And you were going to do it. And you always wanted a ute because you always had utes. You were the accountant with utes. Falcon XR6 utes.
FBT exempt.
Uh-huh. Fringe benefits tax.
Mm-hmm.
So you always had utes because they were sensible.
Well, you say always. I had
You had
two.
it for 10 years.
Two that I leased for 5 years.
Oh, and
each,
the
so
Burgundy.
10 years. Oh,
The H&G truck.
Yeah, that was Dad's.
Yeah, but you drove for a bit.
6 months, I think.
Oh, okay. I remember that being a long time, but I was a kid, so I've seen that. That's still kicking
Still
around,
kicking
Berwick.
around.
I saw it 2 years ago. Yeah, AU Falcon XR6,
Yep.
Burgundy H&G logo on the
Yep.
side.
Yep.
It still has H&G logo on the side.
No way, really.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
There you go.
Craziness.
That was actually that had poke. That you put your foot down and it just went.
Well, it had a fly-by-wire throttle as opposed to an electronic throttle.
Okay.
So what that means is if there's a cable attached to the accelerator and when you put your foot down, mechanically it opens up the throttle and petrol goes in.
Right.
Whereas now you don't have that. You have an electronic throttle and you put your foot down and it goes through, some witchcraft happens in the computer and basically it's trying to be fuel efficient and trying to save the baby seals at the same time, and it's slower. That's why people get EVC throttle controllers, and they can. So it's a little thing that bypasses that ridiculous nanny state computer. And you can turn it up to 11, and it would have felt like that.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
Mm.
I wasn't necessarily a big fan of the AU Falcon at the time. That one had the XR6 grill. It wasn't actually an XR6. It was just an AU Ute, but Dad had the XR6 grill put on, or the grill. No,
It's fake.
it was.
It had Botox.
Yep. Fake. Anyway, but it
Wow.
looked good. While we're on Falcons,
Yep.
EA Falcon, horrible.
Yeah.
The only thing that should ever be used for is a boat anchor.
Not a fan.
Just putting it out there, EA Falcons.
Yeah, right.
Have you ever seen one on the road anymore? They don't exist, right?
It's a good point.
That's the one
I saw
car
him 5 years ago.
that
Not
never
anymore though.
ever survived long term. You'll
Yeah.
see.
Your
still
dad
see-
had him, didn't he?
He did. He actually did, and it was a horrible car. He bought one, and it was so bad he took it back, and he got a second one, and he kept that for 3 or 5 years, I think, but ultimately it had its problems too.
Yeah. Okay.
EA Falcons, bad period in Falcon history, to be honest. Anyway, we digress. Mustangs. Yeah, there's
Have you
no
seen the
money
new
in
Mustang?
cars.
Have you seen the new Mustang?
No, you said
I
this to me
will-
today, and I haven't
Let
seen
me
it.
show you. We were having an interesting conversation inside about cars, and we were talking about can you buy. There's a lot of sensible cars on the market. Can you buy a really interesting, crazy car? The sort of car that has a spinning bow tie and a flower that you squeeze and it shoots water in your face. A stupid car. Can you buy a stupid car anymore? In every price bracket. And I think initially I said no, you can't. And then I think we sort of decided that you can.
Yep.
So we decided that the Mustang 2024 is a good car for 80 grand. What do you think? What do you reckon?
Yeah, that's quite nice. I'd rate that. It's not electric though, is it?
Not
Is it-
yet.
Proper V8.
Give it 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I think they do a hybrid one. That's the
Well,
interior.
It's on the block. This Mac E
Oh, that's
thing, which is an SUV electric.
I can't even.
Don't know. Oh, like a flat bottom steering wheel.
It's got a handbrake. I know that sounds ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, how else
But-
are you gonna do handbrakies?
They don't sell handbrakes anymore. It's e-brake. It's a button.
Not on that one.
Your Alpha, does it have a handbrake?
Has that got missile switches on it?
Where?
There. No.
No,
just-
no.
that's
We like
disappointing.
we like a missile switch though, don't we?
The missile switch, like capes. Bring back the cape. I say.
Oh, don't even.
Get me started. on
Don't
capes.
even.
Let me
Do you know what
scream.
it's like being the kid that grew up with a dad that was interested in capes? Anyway, this is decided that it's
That's called payback.
Yeah, fair enough. Dad went through a cape phase.
No, I never went through a phase.
You never
I never
wore
wore
one,
a cape.
but I don't know.
I just say I'd
The
like
threat
to wear a
was
cape.
there.
That's it.
It's like if your dad wants to start wearing a wig
There
and a
was
dress to pick you up from school. You're going to be a
No,
bit
no,
scared.
no, no. That's cross-dressing. That's completely different. There was a period in history where men wore capes. Capes, hats, canes. It was the 1800s, and that's what they wore. I just think that was a particularly cool fashion accessory, and I rate it. Of course, we don't have capes now.
Wonder why.
I don't mind an overcoat.
Yeah.
Of course, you don't need an overcoat in Queensland, where we now live.
How is that
'Cause the
going?
weather is lovely.
How is Queensland going?
You know, you go outside and the sun's out and the air is warm and it just makes you smile. You instantly feel your body lighten and your face do this thing where you smile and you go, oh, what is this strange thing happening to my face?
What is the sensation?
We Victorians don't necessarily experience that a whole lot.
No.
And so that's pretty cool. And people are just more relaxed in
Yep.
Queensland.
Okay.
So that's good. And I think it's just weather related. People just happier because it's warm. You come down here and, well, it's cold. So people are just a bit more
It was
miserable.
lovely today. It was 21 degrees. Sun
Yeah,
was
it was
out.
good.
Sea breeze.
But
Coming
this is the
down
thing,
Oliver's Hill
I mean-
today. I was looking at the bay, looking at the clear
Right.
city. Big city too.
Yeah, it's huge now. Did you know
Brisbane's just a couple of tents they've set up. And
Yeah,
go,
it's
look
not-
at our city. It's wonderful.
it's not huge? Did you know there's only 4 cities in America that are bigger than Melbourne?
I do. Austin is the same size as Brisbane,
Is that right?
which means Austin's small.
Can you name the 4 cities that are bigger?
New York.
Yep.
Seattle.
Nope.
Somewhere in LA.
Chicago
Chicago.
and
Chicago.
Atlanta, would you believe?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Mm,
Very interesting.
there you go. Well,
Do-
we found it interesting. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if your listeners will have found it interesting, but
Should we take a little break because my Mac has decided
Died.
it wants to just make the screen black, and I'm not convinced that I'm actually getting any audio anymore. Yeah, it's only been doing it for about 2 minutes.
okay.
So we're going to take a quick break.
Surely.
That was fixed. That's fixed. It was easy. I had just
wasn't
accidentally,
actually broken.
for whatever reason, I'd zoomed in on the page and it cracked the shits. But the break, whilst including our bathroom break, gave me a moment to reflect on a conversation that you and I had the other day, and we were talking about how things have changed with the Australian dream. So the Australian dream is you work hard, buy a house, pay off the house, and then you have equity in your home, and that equity in your home gives you a big lump for you to make your next move, whether that's start a business, retire, build a property portfolio. Would you say that's an apt assessment of the traditional
For sure.
1968 Australian dream? Yeah. Now that's very different now. And we were having a conversation the other day about, does the Australian dream still exist? Yeah.
Well, I think the dream's still there. Can you achieve the dream? It's
No.
pretty hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you go back to the 60s and 70s, even the 80s, even most of the way through the 80s, a house was around about 3 times your salary.
Actually, let's look
There's
up.
probably a
I want
statistic.
to be really.
Here's a graph.
Yeah. So 80s, Do you want to go 80s?
Yeah,
When do you
sure.
want to go? Yeah?
80s is fine. Whilst you're looking that up, I can tell
1980
you, I
median.
purchased my first house. Cost 120 grand to buy the land, 36 grand for the land, 80 grand to build the house. So call it 120 grand rounded up. And my income at the time was about 30,000 a year. Mind you, that was a graduate salary. No, actually, no, 45,000 a year by then. So it was. Let's call that 2.5, 3 times my salary. How much did the house cost in 1980? 76,000. Medium
That seems
price.
high.
Yeah, certainly not out in the burbs. My mum
In
and dad-
1970, you could buy a house in Sydney for $18,700, and in 1980, the average house price was around $76,500. By 1990, it had doubled to 184 grand.
Yeah,
that
was
seems
Sydney.
weird.
That's Sydney, though. Sydney was very expensive to begin with. Sydney and Melbourne prices have caught up.
I will.
Mum and Dad bought a block in Berwick in 1980 for 3 grand. Count it, 3 grand. 1,200 square metre block or 1,000 square metre block, 3 grand, which today would be 750,000 in Berwick. 40 years later.
I'm sorry, I was
40 years
googling something. What was 750?
later.
Today?
A third of an acre. So it's at 1,200 square metres. Yep, 1,200 square metres.
For just the block or block
the
and
block.
house?
Block, no house.
More.
Yeah, in Berwick.
When I was
Old
in
Berwick.
when I was in the game, Berwick was $1,200 a square metre.
Mm-hmm.
That's 4 years ago.
Yeah, right.
The game. Do you like that?
Yeah.
I love it when
heard it.
people say the game and they apply to something like that's not
That's
very
not a game
like
at all.
the small meats game.
Mm.
Also, you're a butcher.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's not like you're out there with the mafia rolling with the punches. Anyway, continue.
Moral
I
of the
reckon it's
story
more
is-
than that. I reckon it's $1 million.
Houses were somewhere between 3 and 4 times a salary, an annual salary. Now today, what's the median house price? You'll look that up in a minute. I'm pretty sure it's $700,000-$800,000 around here, and that would have to be. And the average salary is about 75,000, so we're talking 10 times. 10 times.
$920
Wow.
is the median house
So we're
price.
now at 12 times.
Average wage.
And that's why you have to have 2 incomes. That's why both people have to go out and earn a job so that they can double that, so that one person just pays the mortgage off.
$1,800 a week.
Oh, you have to do that.
100
52
grand?
times. Yeah, it's 100 grand.
Bit less. 96.
So still nine times, right? The theory's still right. We've gone from 3 to 4 to 9 to 10 times, and that's why it's so much harder
Mm-hmm.
to get into a house.
Yep.
So now you have to do things like rely on your mum and dad's equity in the house, or get them to guarantee the loan, or join the loan, or give you the deposit, or something along those lines, just to get into a house in the first place.
Yeah.
And then it's probably much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So that you're not buying a $900,000 house, you're
Yep.
buying a $300,000 unit. That's how you get into the market.
For
That's
what?
okay.
Why?
Why do you
Why do you want to get in the market?
Yeah,
Then
that's
what?
it. Yeah, that's a
Because in the
great
past,
question.
it was you get in so that you have a building block to buy a whole bunch of investments.
Sure.
Or a building block so that you can borrow against your property and build your business. But I spoke with the bank the other day and they won't let me draw down on my house for my business.
No.
Okay. So that's stupid. And you can't buy more investments.
No, in a high interest rate environment, it's hard too, because that reduces the amount you can borrow, because
Correct.
you have to pay back so much interest,
Correct.
and it's a lot of money. So
Yep.
you,
Yeah.
much
So they told me
less
that
likely.
I could borrow 3.5 times my annual income, including the loan I already have, which has
Right.
got $330 left on it.
for all of you playing at home.
Yeah, but we did the math, and you can't buy a house for 300 grand anymore.
No way.
You have to buy a $600,000 house.
You can't even
That's
buy a block
small.
of land for 300 grand.
No.
No.
Now, this house we're in right now, which is in Frankston on a 580 square metre block, it's a 3-bedroom home. It's old. It's not that fancy, is it?
No.
Granted, Frankston's now quite a lovely place to live. But I reckon it's $750 for this. Yeah? It's just a house.
Yep. 3 bedrooms.
There's nothing great
bathroom,
about this.
no
I
ensuite.
love living here, but there's nothing great about it. So why would you want to do that? What is the inherent benefit? And I think basically what we decided is there's none. We're going to come back to the farm tick that we did on the phone
Sure.
in a minute. But I don't think
You're
there's
saying why should people buy a house instead of renting a house? Is that what you're
yeah.
saying? Yeah. And people will always answer, if I want to put a nail in that wall and hang a picture there, I can, and I don't have to get permission.
Congratulations,
Do
you
it
put
anyway.
yourself in extreme financial debt,
Yeah.
divorce, all this horse shit, drug addiction, just so that you own a house. Congratulations.
Yep. There are also a lot of horror stories of people who are getting kicked out of their house because the landlords put the price up, or the landlords
Can't
kicking
do
them
that.
out. You can't do it anymore.
No.
So I don't even know where these stories come from.
No.
But,
Do you reckon it's propaganda?
look, there'd have to be some truth to it. Sure. And there's a lot of dodgy landlords out there, but there's more good landlords. There's just regular old mums and dads that just want to get ahead and they buy investment properties, and the majority of people out there are those people. And they're bound to be a bunch of dodgy landlords, and so those stories are prevalent, but,
Do you reckon renovating works?
well, it used to. You
Did it though? Because this is
back
what
in
we
the
were
day,
talking about the other day.
this is like the game, you know. The
Back in
game.
the day.
Back in the day, you used to be able to buy a house for 120 grand, spend 20 grand renovating it, and then flip it for 180 grand.
Which day? The 80s?
When you were painting that fence.
But we did this,
that was-
and you think...
that was
you-
early
you've-
2000s,
but
right?
you've looked back.
No, that wasn't me. I came after that. So that was just. So that was this whole. There was a season where people were doing that and making money. So
Yeah.
I decided that's a good idea. Let's get on that.
Yeah.
By the time I did it, that arbitrage had been priced out of the market. You were buying the house for 160 grand, spending that 20, selling it for 180. You weren't making any money. Yes, my theory is that we always bought and then sold for more and renovated along the way, but I'm not sure that the growth that we got would have been any different if we hadn't renovated. I'm not sure. Certainly the house that we presented
Yeah.
to sell was much easier to sell because it had been renovated,
Yeah.
so they sold quicker. But I'm not sure if... And we probably got more for it, sure. But had it not been renovated, we would have got a bit less. Would that have been like a net? If you did the maths, would it have been net less than we? Probably not. Honestly, probably not. So am I
So we don't think that
better
works.
off having renovated and flipped houses all this time? Sorry, Dal, I don't think so.
Yeah. Who won? The SRO.
The people that bought the house office, ultimately. Almost
Yeah.
to a T. Every single house that we renovated, if I drive past it today, is still exactly the same.
Yeah. Ferndale has purple.
It's the same. I painted that purple.
No.
It was-
I probably painted bits of it. It's purple and yellow.
Yep.
Purple
Well,
and yellow.
and those were colours. Those were fashionable colours. Pantene colour of the year. Pantene? Pantone.
Pantone.
Pantone colour of the year. Something's beeping.
Continue. Yeah.
Please continue. They were the popular colours, but the owners have never changed that house. So that's a bit interesting. And the house we sold in Baxter 2 years ago, they haven't touched it.
Ferndale's.
The house, our first house we built when you were born, is still exactly the same. The trees that we planted, the Sasanqua camellias that we planted to make a hedge, are still there. They've now hedged up, thankfully, 25 years later, but they haven't touched that at all. Done nothing to it. And it still looks good.
Filled up an SD card. 64 gig of talking.
We must
How does
have
that
too
make you
much to
feel?
say.
Oh, that's fine. So we were doing the farm thing. So you came away from that and you decided that you would have been better off having bought one house. Yeah. And you said that was a fun. By the way, do you want Prikovata or Nit?
No, don't give up.
Yeah. Okay.
No, then
Pick
I'll
a-
need a break.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay.
But just for those playing at home. Prikkelvaart.
Prikovata is the Dutch word for sparkling water,
Yeah,
and we just call it prick.
that's water with prick in it.
Yeah. If you say so. Anyway.
Farm. We would have been much better off financially had we bought a 4-acre farm when you were born 25 years ago and stayed there for 25 years. We could have renovated it. That would have been great. And just lived there. That would have been much better. But we could not afford. That was a $700,000 property and we only had $120,000.
Correct.
So there was just no way we were ever going to get there.
Yeah.
But that would have been financially much better off. And those people that I look at that have got a lot of equity in their house, they're sitting on $3 million properties and they've only got a $500,000 mortgage, it's because they did that. They were able to, at some stage, buy a house that was way more than I could ever buy at that time and stay there. And then just ride that wave up.
So you were saying to me the other day that the best thing I could do on paper, in theory, is buy some land, because we'd love to end up on land. But it's not financially viable, so we're not on land. But the best thing we could do, and this is to borrow your saying that you always say, I feel like all your problems could be solved if you only just had a little bit more money.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. But buy a farm and slowly renovate it over 35 years. And do what you want, make it your own over 35 years, and never move, because the winners are always the SRO or the real estate agent, the state revenue office, the real estate agent, and the person who inherits your wonderful nest egg that you've prettied up. Yeah.
Cost you $100,000 every time you move.
Yeah. Anyway, and then we started doing the arithmetic on that, and we thought, okay, so I run a business in Frankston, so I can't live in Warragul. Yeah, it needs to be Metro Melbourne. Yeah. So what's Metro Melbourne? It's Pearsdale. Yeah.
Okay.
So 4 acres in Pearsdale area is expensive, and we put it down to, I think, 1.5 million. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, so if I sold my house
With an old 70s
piece of shit
shitter on it.
like it's not
Mission Brown.
good.
No.
It's an ugly bit of land with no trees on it. It's pretty much a swamp. But you know those Pearsdale properties, they're swampy, yeah? They're not, we're not talking about lovely here. It's just, you did it, you got big space. Congratulations on your big space. Sure. And I'd love to have it, if I could. But you do that, 1.5 million bucks, yeah? I sell my investment property in Pakenham for, let's say, $500,000. Let's say I owe 300 grand on it.
Sure.
Even not counting in agent's fees, I put 200 grand into it. Which leaves me with a $1.3 million loan. We reverse engineered this. Leaves me with a $1.3 million loan. Yeah. So 200 grand is
$78,000 a year in interest.
Yeah, interest only.
Yeah, no.
You have to pay principal.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, so it was another 20 grand. I think it was $96,000 a year in P&I.
Yeah, $96,000 a year, so $2,000 a week.
And that's
Ish.
after tax. So you have to earn at least 0.55, let's be generous, 175 grand a year to pay for that. You haven't eaten yet.
No kids.
Haven't put petrol in the car.
No BMW M3 wagon yet.
No chance.
No Dodge Ram. But you see these people with Dodge Ram, which is with $300,000 car. $300,000 car, and they've got a bit of land, and it's like, where are you selling these drugs? Yes, no.
Frankston.
Yeah. But, and so you've got that stress, and the only way you can do that, so you have to, they will give you a loan 3.5 times. So what have you got to earn to get that?
Oh, yeah. So, that's right.
It's like $485,000 a year, yeah?
Well, 3.5 times 96,000, so that's $350,000 a year. You have to earn.
Yeah, which
in order
granted
to
combined.
get that.
So basically,
Sure, but that's both professional. That's two people on professional salaries working 60, 80 hours a week.
and then what do you get? Mission Brown shack, made of asbestos with no trees, a septic tank that leaks. Your house smells like shit.
Yep, squelch through.
It's chaos.
And you're never there because you're working 80 hours a week to pay for the thing.
Correct.
And then your daughter wants a horse.
Yeah.
And then it's all over.
That was not intentional. But like, I just don't see it working anymore.
No.
Yeah. It's sad, isn't it? It's sad. It's really sad.
Yeah. No, the only way that will work is if I'm dead and you inherit.
Correct. Yeah.
You've got to inherit your from your parents, from your family somewhere. You've got to inherit money.
Yeah. Do you
That's
want some
why it works.
mushrooms?
No, the problem is medical science is keeping us all alive too long. And so the inheriting is not happening.
Yeah. It's scary, isn't it?
Yeah. Did you say mushrooms?
Yeah, that was a reference to that.
No, I get it.
But do you reckon she did it? I'll save you some time.
Very suspicious.
Absolutely, she did. Do you know much about it? Because
I know a little.
I've followed the whole thing
right.
from cover to cover now. So, step one, she served her and her kids different food.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's the first bit. Fact number 2, that was the in-laws. Yeah? And they're divorced.
Yeah.
That's fact number 2.
Get rid of him.
Fact number 3, he didn't come, so the ex-husband didn't come to lunch because the last time he ate her food, he ended up in a coma.
Was that the last time?
Yeah. So, what do you reckon? Did she? Absolutely she did it. I just don't see a world where she didn't. And she's out in... this is now international news as well. I was listening to the Tim Dillon podcast the other day. He's a US podcaster out of LA. And he did a piece on her. And this is big news. And there's nothing funnier, though, than hearing a guy from LA say Leongatha.
Leongatha?
He got it good.
Yeah.
He said, Leongatha! Which I thought was pretty close. You got a video for me, do you?
Yeah. This was about this is in reference to the housing thing that we were talking about. We have to put the headphones on, do we?
Well, if I put it through here, then it ends up coming through this, you know?
So the backstory is there were times where the government would release a whole bunch of land and they would auction the land off. So couples would go to a...
Excuse me, you've just come out of the auction room.
Couples
Did you
would
buy
go
a block
into
of land?
into an auction room, as the guy just mentioned there. It would be sort of separate
saw
to the
this the other
land,
day.
and they would auction lots off. And so play the video.
Excuse me, you've just come out of the auction room. Did you buy a block of land?
No.
Why not?
Too expensive.
How much did you want to bid?
About 1,600, something like that.
And what were the prices of blocks this morning?
The last 15 or so blocks have started at 2,000 and gone up to anywhere between 3,000 and 4,000.
So what do you do now?
Well, we have to wait and hope for the best of the next one.
Filmed 55 years ago.
Should we just kill her?
Yeah. I don't know what she's got to say, but she's probably saying basically the same thing we've been saying.
Yeah.
I just love he's at it. Well, we'll just have to wait for the best for next time.
Yeah, right.
How cool were their accents, by the way?
That was so
55
different.
years
What
ago,
happened?
that's just a
I've
couple
been
of young
thinking
kids.
about this, and nobody
They'd
talks
be your
about
age.
this. Yeah, they were, and it's the same in the US. You listen to a JFK speech; he had a very,
He had a weird accent, JFK.
but they all spoke differently
Yep.
to now, and it's the same here as well. It's a Englishized version of our current accent. Is it because we're all just photocopies? And as you photocopy a piece of paper, so if you take an original and photocopy it, take the original off and put the photocopy on, it is going to be of worse quality than the original. And if you do that 72 times, you're going to have a blank bit of paper at the end.
No, I think that's the reason why our DNA is deteriorating, because ultimately you're effectively doing that. So every time the DNA gets copied, it gets a little bit worse and a little bit worse. And so I think that's why you're seeing various defects. But I think
Stuff.
that aside, no, I think Australians have proactively tried to avoid that accent or tried to move away from that accent.
Really?
It's too posh. And Aussies don't like posh, right? Somebody speaks like that now, you
Tall poppy syndrome.
you tear them a new one. wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you'd take them right down. You punts.
Yep. It's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think they proactively stopped it. We completely digressed from the thrust of that.
It's alright. From the which?
They wanted...
From the thrust of that. I like that. That's good.
The-
I'm going to co-op that.
Okay. $1,500 for a block of land. That's all he wanted to pay. And he was annoyed they went for over $2,000.
$100.
Could you imagine?
$100 is beer money now.
What did he say? There were 500-600 square metre blocks?
Yep. I can't remember.
Yeah, anyway. That's bucks. 2,000. I don't know, 2 or 3. Imagine if you had $2,000 or $3,000 now, you went back and bought all those blocks. But of course that never happens. That's not a thing. You can't do that
No.
unless you have a DeLorean.
Yeah.
Back to cars.
Yes.
Actually, I grew up watching that series of movies in the 80s, of course. Fantastic.
Yep.
Back to the Future. Michael J. Fox loved it. DeLorean, ugly car.
Terrible.
Ugly car.
Terrible.
I don't know why they were so completely idolised in
Yeah.
that movie, because they are a ugly car.
The DeLorean story is actually fascinating.
Is it?
Yes. So DeLorean was started. Who funded DeLorean? How do you spell DeLorean?
I think I want to say
Yeah.
DOLO, DeLorean.
The British government.
Oh no, DE. Oh really? It's a French car.
I can't remember who it was. Besides some early seed capitaling from Hollywood stars, the DeLorean Motor Company relied on the British government for about 120 million of its 200 million startup cost, according to the Times. The British government was keen to create jobs in Northern Ireland to reduce the sectarian violence? I've never heard that word in my life. Sectarian.
That's violence between sects. Not sex. Sect.
Yeah. Interesting.
Groups of people.
Okay.
Northern Ireland was famous for Protestants and Catholics fighting against each other, so that's probably what they're talking about.
GM gave John DeLorean some money too.
Well, there you go. Is this fascinating?
And he went broke because his car was terrible.
It was a horrible car.
There was nothing good about that car.
Except for they used it in the movie.
It was heavy
Yep.
and
made
ugly,
of stainless
and
steel.
slow. Yeah. And
According to the doc, anyway.
went broke.
Who knows? Yeah, right.
Yeah, very, very quickly.
So, $3,000 for a block.
Yep. It's crazy,
Back
isn't
then.
it?
Yeah.
Yep.
So the point is, it's unaffordable today.
Yeah, it's
Renovating
always been
doesn't work, and unless you inherit a whole bunch of money, it's really hard to get into the property that you really should buy and stay in for your family for 20, 30 years.
Yeah. What do we do? This is what we were trying to work out the other day. What do you do? I think so. We came up with
Sell drugs.
Yeah, sell drugs. You build a business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Which is what I'm trying to do.
Mhm.
Build a gardening business. There are investment opportunities you can do. Yeah. Some boutique.
Yep.
Like in the past, people have been buying NFTs. I never bought an NFT. Did you buy an NFT?
No.
Nah, it seemed a bit speculative, didn't it? And it seemed a bit new.
Yeah, news okay, but it's like a whole bunch of other stuff. Prices are... Value is in the eye of the beholder, right?
Yep.
Definition of value is what a knowledgeable willing buyer and a knowledgeable willing seller are prepared to pay for something. So if two people come together and they agree on a price, that's the value.
Mm.
So if two people agree that something that is inherently worth nothing is worth something, then it's worth something.
Correct.
And as long as people continue to agree that, the market's established.
Mm.
But ultimately, they have no value.
Uh-huh.
NFTs have no value.
Yep.
Bitcoin has no value.
Yep.
You know, ultimately these things, even shares in the stock market go up and down in price all the time because you've got idiots paying money for them with no real basis. There's a lot of people out there, of course, that do value shares and they do understand the underlying values to them. Those are professional guys and they're working for large institutions and they will set prices, but they will buy and sell when the idiots have caused the price to go up or down accordingly.
Yep.
You know, there's just a whole lot of heat that gets put into the market because of that. How do we get there? Because
What do you
price.
do?
Because people...
What do you do?
Well, you can either ride the wave of people's stupidity.
What
If somebody thinks
did
something's
Jake
worth
and
that-
Shayna do?
Jake and Shayna.
You know who Jake and Shayna are?
No.
They're just two
Oh,
Aussie
just
people. You
two
know?
random
She's a
people.
beauty therapist. He's a plumber.
Yeah,
what do you
right.
do?
Yeah, well, they buy shares, don't
Rent
they?
forever.
Oh, what do you do with it? No, you gotta modify the dream, don't you? You get a new dream.
New dream.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a completely new dream, but just modify it a bit.
You'll own
Or
nothing,
change your expectation.
and
Yeah,
you'll be happy.
There it is.
Should we not go there?
Rent vesting's pretty popular.
Yeah.
That's essentially what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
You own an investment property and you rent where you live.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But that seems to, I mean, after talking with the bank manager, it seems to not work. He said, yeah, I can't, if you're renting, I can't loan you more money.
Right.
Yeah. Because you have dead money.
Yeah. You just have to have an income that outstrips that. You just have to have earning capacity.
The only way to achieve the Australian dream is by earning $450,000 a year.
Yeah. And how do you do that?
It's-
Sell drugs.
Yeah, I know, right? If you'd like to invest in the Audacious Dutchman CBD startup, please comment down below.
The banking regulations have changed, though, over the last, 10 years.
Yeah.
They've tightened up a lot because there were a lot of
And
people...
loosened.
Post
They
GFC...
loosened for a minute. Do you remember when they lowered the testing rate?
Yeah, but only...
But they
briefly.
do this
But only
anytime they
because they
overcorrect.
ratcheted it right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. They ratcheted it right up. After the GFC, people were... everybody was saying banks were irresponsible because they lent money to people that they shouldn't have lent money to, and that's why the whole thing,
Yep.
the house of cards, fell down. So then, of course, they overreacted and ratcheted everything up and made it really hard for you to borrow, which was arguably a good thing, but it's still really hard. But the price of property continued to rise, even though they made it harder for people to get in.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you just have to make more money.
Yep.
You just have to work harder and try and achieve, as you say, escape velocity.
Escape velocity.
I like that.
Yeah. I stole that.
Patent pending.
Yeah. I stole that from someone else.
Yep.
But it's interesting, isn't it? When are you going to Africa? In a month?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yep. Are you gonna film anything or do anything while you're
Oh
over
yeah.
there? Yeah.
No, absolutely. Been doing a little bit of training to try and hone my skills.
Okay.
With video recording.
Yep.
And what we've discovered.
Don't
is
ask me. Fucking
donors-
chaos in here with the video.
Donors don't want to see polished Hollywood style videos. They don't want to see that the money they've donated has been spent on making videos. They want authentic. So if you can just pull your phone out and quickly record a video
Yeah.
And send that back to supporters, they love it. It's authentic,
Yeah.
it's real, it's happening. Arguably authentic and real are the same thing. It's happening right there on the spot. And that's terrific. So we're going to be doing a fair bit of that. We'll do some interviews. Might do a little bit of this.
Yep.
See how we go.
Yeah. Okay. You think you might do a podcast?
Wouldn't
I suggested it the
mind.
other day. Would that be something you'd do, or
Yeah, I'm open to it.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
open to it. There's a few people in the space doing philanthropic podcasts,
Okay.
and so there's probably appetite for it. There's probably demand, and there's probably still room to do it with a slightly different flavour.
Yep.
So maybe I don't know. Be interesting.
have you got an idea? Have you got anything brewing? Is that something you want to put on wax or not really?
Yeah, no. I can put that out there. Our thing is all about transformation. We want to see people go from. We want to see people improve their lives. So
Yep.
we want to help people empowered to improve their lives and achieve some level of transformation in their lives. And so, I'm thinking something along the lines of transformation. Maybe call it Transformers,
Okay.
because we want to showcase the stories of people who've achieved transformation in their lives.
Okay. So people that you work with, you hear a fantastic
Sure.
story of maybe even someone on Ryback Beach sleeping,
Yeah, could be.
and they turn their life around.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
He gets good mental health counselling. He gets good medication. He gets himself into a house. He gets a job. Next thing, he's got a wife, and he's having a family, and
Yep.
he's living the Australian dream.
Living the Australian dream.
Renting,
He's
but-
just worked out that he's
Renting.
fucked. He goes, it was better on the beach.
At least on the beach, on a mortgage.
Fucking good view.
Best view, beachfront property.
Oh dear. Oh, that's not good. That's terrible, isn't it?
So, Transformers.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Don't ever see. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a thing. We'll do some interviews. We'll record some stuff.
If people want to get behind the Rye thing, I like the Rye thing or the Africa stuff.
The motel. If you've got a lazy mill that you want to lend interest free, no repayments, 10 years, have I got a deal for you?
Is there any way that people can donate even a small amount?
To the absolutely.
foundation?
If you go to Payton, payton.com.au/foundation,
Yep.
you will find everything that you need to find about the Payton Foundation, and through there will be links to various things about all of the charity partners that we support, including Southern Peninsula Community Support. And I don't know that I might have to put now that we've done this, I might have to put some sort of link about the motel project on there, but it's not really
Known.
known.
Can people donate to specific things, or do you just donate to the foundation?
Yeah,
Get
in fact,
allocated?
you know what? If you go to the donate link and you want to make a donation, in the dedication put motel, and I'll know what that means, and
Okay.
I'll make sure that's where it goes.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Cool. That'll work.
Oh, damn it, I had another question, and I've already forgotten it.
Yeah, that's another thing that we both have. I do that all the time.
Oh, it was a good question too. But as you'd say, if you've forgotten it,
Probably wasn't worth.
can't be that important.
That's it.
Have you got anything else you'd like to plug? Any events coming up?
Well, I was going to, but now I've forgotten.
Fuck it. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Stupid's inherited.
Yeah, no, look, in terms of transformation, we're talking about transformers, right? There are people overseas who have risen up from tragedy and trauma and have made something of themselves. And there are a lot of stories, and they'll be great. They're everywhere, and we will try and tell some of those. But there are also stories of people who have gone overseas and helped with them, and they've done a fantastic job too. But then, you know, you and I here can partner with those people by financially supporting them. And you're helping them to achieve, because they can't do what they do without us. I always say they're goers and senders. Maybe we could call it goers and senders. There are people who will go, and there are people who will send them away,
That's
right?
interesting.
I'm not a person who could go and live overseas and do that work.
Long term.
But I'm a person who could help arrange for the money for them to do that. You know, we've personally financially supported people,
Yep.
and we're organisationally helping to make that happen. So we're the senders, and there are people who are the goers. The goers usually don't have the financial resources to send, and
They go.
the senders usually don't have any appetite to go.
Yep.
And that's a perfect marriage. So
Yep.
there is great value. The goers need senders. So if you're a sender, by all means, contact us, and we will connect you with goers and make that happen.
Yeah, great. Fantastic. Cool.
On that note,
Cool. As we mentioned earlier, if you want your grass cut, please call me. Smart Yards. We will come cut your grass, trim your hedges, rip your weeds out. Thinking about losing weed spraying based on the fact that I'm pretty sure it causes Alzheimer's.
yeah,
Cancer and all this other sort of horse shit. And when you're looking down the barrel of hiring staff, you start to question whether you want to be at the end of the next asbestos trials.
yeah, maybe not.
So we might not be spraying anymore, but we'll do all the other gardening stuff.
Which is much better for business because it takes a lot longer to pull the weeds out than it does to spray.
I thought of my point earlier. I was just going to say, your donation, is it tax deductible?
Of course it's
Tax deductible.
Absolutely.
That was
Who are you talking to?
that was the point I was making. Really not worth it. Wasn't that great?
No, great point.
No,
That's
was
an
it?
excellent point.
Okay.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
People are always looking for a tax deductible
Yeah.
donation. So if you've made too much money, like if you are one of these people making $450,000 a year and you have the income to afford the Australian dream, you're also going to be wanting some tax offsets. So if you want to make a tax deduction, payton.com.au/foundation. But don't forget Smart Yards,
Yeah.
the sponsor of this show.
Yeah, that's it. The only other thing that I need to plug is on the 29th of September, I will be back at Comedy in the Cellar doing a brand new 5 minutes that I have not yet written. So I'll be up there shitting myself probably. I'm actually considering going up there with nothing
And just winging it.
and just winging it. Yeah, a couple of loose ideas.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do it. But it popped into my head today. I was like, oh, what if I just go up there and believe that God's going to... And I went, nah, this
There'll
is...
be a lot of ahs.
Yeah,
and
there already was a lot of
ahs. And
ahs.
and then
Yeah.
you'll... Oh, I thought I could just get up here and wing it, and now that I'm up here...
Do
It's,
crowd work. Someone said to me the other day, if your material sucks, just shit can the person front left.
Yep.
Yep. Anyway,
It's your fault for sitting in there. Yeah.
that's exactly right. No, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. It's been episode 7. We are back in episode 8. We are talking about the Voice to Parliament. Monique and I, we're actually filming this on a Thursday. We're filming that on Saturday. We're talking about the Voice to Parliament. We have some perspectives. Do you like that? It's nothing better than when a young generation talks about perspectives, freedoms, all this sort of shit that shouldn't be
Supports.
plural. It's
I love
singular.
It. I love it when you provide supports.
Supports. Yeah. Almost as good as a safe space. Anyway, on that note, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, put them down below. Like, subscribe, comment, all that sort of horse shit. Thank you so much. Take care. See ya.
See ya.
Peace. Awesome.
This one, that- yeah.